What is going on, everybody? Hope you guys are having an awesome day. Thought I'd share a couple of things that have been on my mind about how to help our community as a whole be better. And at the very least, this is just advice for myself that I really try to hold to, always see the best in people. And so, you know, I've listened to the book How to Win Friends and Influence People in the past, and I just started, I just picked it up to start reading it again, or at least the physical copy of it, to dig deeper into some of the stuff you that I've read in it. And the reason for that is because when you hear it, it's very different than when you actually read it on paper. And so it's interesting, like hearing some of the stories that I remember in the book, and now reading them line by line. And that book has a lot of great strategies on how to always see the best in people. And for those of you guys who've seen my previous videos, you've seen I've made my fair share of mistakes in not doing that, and then in other areas where I have done that. And so that's it's kind of an interesting thing when you're making content like this to help improve people, because I still do want to be up on stage with all those public speakers who are helping millions of people live their best lives. And I realize that first starts with me. And so part of that is me making a lot of mistakes, figuring out the best ways to communicate with you guys, because a lot of you that spend time with me in the gym or in general, you definitely see that I'm a very different person when I'm talking to you. A lot of it is more questions, areas that I can, connect with you. Um, and again, I don't have all the answers. I'm more of just figuring out ways to, really provide the best content for you guys to really drive the needle forward and help you out the best I can. So part of that, and reading the book, it refreshes my mind on a lot of different things that it talks about in the book, is to never condemn anyone or to judge anyone or shame anyone. And I've made my fair share of mistakes on that. And no one's perfect. I realize that. And something I was thinking about earlier too was, I'm a people person. I'm not a people pleaser. And something you realize, for anyone who's doing content or social media, YouTube, all that stuff, that there's going to be people who, and I've done it too, where they're like, oh, I could have said that better, or I could have done that better, or I could have, this and this. And it's like, well, if that's the case, then I'd love to see you post the content as well. Do exactly what I'm doing. And that's not to dig on anyone, or be negative in any way. It's just when you're putting yourself out there, there's a lot of things that you learn through trial and error. It's kind of like when you start a new job, you're not going to know exactly how to do that job versus someone who's been doing it for a year, 10 years, or 15 years. There's going to be a lot of things that you don't know, that you have to just learn by doing it. And making content like this definitely makes you, it's kind of like, it's interesting where it's like, when I talk to people one on one, it's very different, where a lot of what I'm doing is just listening, understanding people at a deeper level. And on here, it's more, educational, more me speaking. And I imagine one day there'll be someone else that I'm talking with to, you know, guide the conversation in more of a conversational matter versus, just me talking to you. And, I think a lot about, some of the stuff that Ed Milet talks about, in his earlier days, versus where he's at today. And so there's a lot of people that I look up to that have given me a roadmap on what this journey looks like. And it's not an easy one, I can tell you that. And but for anyone who wants to really make a difference in the world, there's seasons where you're going to be more alone, or where things are going to be harder. And so you just have to really brace for that, and prepare for that. And one of the ways I do that is by taking care of myself physically. And I've got a lot of really good people who keep me accountable in the gym, just, and whether they realize it or not, like there's really good people who I talk to, I learn from, I connect with. And you know I am eternally grateful for that, where some of those relationships have definitely corrected me in areas that I need to improve on. And part of that too is also, the things that I listen to, the things that I watch, the things that I do, the things that like everything that you're doing, listening to, watching, whether you realize it or not, that's all shaping the type of person that you are becoming, or already the type of person that you are. And so I think a lot about, like, is this the person that I want to be, the future me? What kind of things would they be doing? And working out is one of those things. Making sure that I'm taking care of myself physically, because also when I do that, I'm taking care of myself mentally, which then allows me to have a much deeper relationship with God, the universe, Jesus, whatever that looks like for you. For me, I'm a Christian, and a man of faith is honestly more of how I would describe it, where there's so many things that are going on in this world that I'd rather be a man of faith than a man of fear. And I've lived that life as well, in fear of what's going to happen, all this stuff, and versus, like, okay, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of things that could happen, there's a lot of changes that could, whatever the case may be. And so I look at it more of, instead of things happening to me, I think about it as these are things happening for me. And so, when I hear something that could be misconstrued as negative, or things that I don't like, I recognize it, I hear it, and I'd be like, okay, how do I use this in a positive way? And part of that is really understanding people at a deeper level, understanding psychology, human nature, all that stuff, and there's a thing that a study that I found a while back, where it was like the average person reads 14 books a year, and CEOs read 52 books a year. And the more that I read, and the more things that I learn from people, I definitely see the value in that, because you're amplifying, you're learning from other people's mistakes. That way you can make less mistakes. And part of it is also just doing the work. Like, I have so many different ways to communicate with people, that if I don't utilize it myself, and figure out what works, what doesn't work, how to, the right times to make eye contact, the things that people would say that, are far beyond, where I'm at and where I want to be, that if I didn't do activities like looking at Rolexes, or looking at Corvettes, or, what a, like, just little things that can really change your mindset. And it's it's almost like you can start to visualize yourself owning those things. And obviously, it's not just materialistic stuff. it's just that's one of the ways that you can start to elevate your thinking. And because if you don't, then you could get stuck in a situation where it's like, I'm not seeing any gains, why am I still doing this? And it's like, no, that's not the case at all. If anything, it's just you're not, you know, putting in enough amount of effort or time consistently to see those results. It's like going to the gym day one and expecting that you're going to get a six pack by the day's done. It's like, no, that's not the case at all. It's going to take you 6 months, a year, 3 years. It's going to take some time for that to happen. And I've been working out for probably 6 months now, and I don't have a six pack, and it would definitely be nice to have one, and yet it's only going to happen if I continue to put in the work day in and day out. And that's where I respect guys who have been doing it for years, because again, they're showing me a roadmap of what my life could look like and the life that I want to live. And if you ask anybody, if they'd rather be rich or if they'd be poor, you know, 9 times out of 10 people are gonna say they want to be rich. And if you ask people if they want to be happy or unhappy, the majority of people are going to say they want to be happy. And so now the question becomes, what are the habits that you have that are moving you forward in order to achieve that? Are you waking up early and going to the gym, or are you staying up late watching TikTok till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, or whatever the case may be? It's like I'd rather put myself through some pain and suffering in order to figure out what it is I need to do in order to be the best version of myself. And part of that is always finding ways to see the best in people. Like, there's a good friend of mine, and I won't share his name just out of respect and everything, where he can lift like 120 pounds with the dumbbells on each side. And it's pretty incredible to see, and to build a relationship with him where just that sheer amount of strength that he has in order to lift 240 pounds, 120 on each side, is incredible to see. That if I put in the enough effort and time into it, that I could also get to that. Now, that's not a guarantee, of course. His body physique is different than mine, that I may never get to that point. But I'll never know if I don't put in the work and the effort to make that happen. And so I always look for opportunities to see the best in people. And again, I'm not perfect at it. I'm not going to pretend to be. If anyone, you know, thinks that they're perfect, or, is a perfectionist, or whatever the case may be, then I'm sorry to break it to you, but that's unrealistic expectations. I'd rather have unrealistic expectations on my stretch goals that then challenge me to think higher. Like my challenge of getting 30 listings by the end of this year. That's still a goal of mine. And, I've got 1 month to figure that out. And, if I don't hit it, it's not going to be the end of the world. But now it's like, okay, how many doors do I need to knock? How many conversations do I need to have? What are the things that a person who would get 30 listings in 30 days, essentially, since it's November 27th right now, what would I need to do in order to make that happen? And that's just kind of like a smaller goal within the bigger goal at the end of the day. And yet it still stretches me to think much higher, where it's like, okay, how do I, one, get 30 listings? Two, how do I service 30 listings all at once? or, whatever the case may be. And then 3, what's the area that would look like? What's the price point? All that stuff. And there's things that are out of my control. And so figuring out the best people to help is my highest and best use of my time. And I think a big part of that is really just learning to get uncomfortable with making mistakes, and then also owning your mistakes too when you make those mistakes. Like, I have no problem being vulnerable with you guys because, you know, and this is where being a man of faith really comes into play for me. I don't know all the answers. I'm not going to pretend that, I understand everything about it. And it's just interesting where, being a man of faith and doing everything that I can. And there's areas that I still need to improve on as well, that doing everything that I can to really push the needle forward, that there's just little things that I'll hear or I'll pick up on. And, as I say that, there's some biblical truth to that. It's scriptural. And, you just have to really, listen and pay attention to, what the universe, God, Jesus, you have to look at what the universe is trying to tell you, what it is that they're trying to connect you to. And that's where I also think, like, when I hear something negative or I hear something that I don't like, it's like, okay, how do I use that for good? Because that's something that's not happening to me, it's happening for me. So how do I use that in a positive way? And it's not to downplay or to spin the truth at all. It's more of like, okay, I didn't like this, but how can I use it in a positive way that doesn't negatively impact me and the people around me? And it's a mind shift. It's a really different way of thinking, that you just start to see the good in everything, and that, people are just doing the best they can with the information available to them. And so, while I may not spend time with those people, I can use it as an opportunity to then move forward and help the people who want to help themselves. So I know that's kind of a very broad and general way of explaining it. I think that's probably the best way of doing it. And of course, if I'm wrong, I'm more than willing to admit that, because like I said, in some previous videos that I've done, I've definitely said some stupid stuff. I've made some mistakes, and, it's only by the grace and goodness of people in the world that have pulled me out of some areas and some very subtle ways to correct me in areas that I need to improve on. And, I think that there are things like The Secret, law of attraction, law of reciprocity. There are a lot of things that can really help you understand the world at a deeper level. And I believe in I might be wrong on this, but I believe that, it all comes back to the Bible. If you these are people who have figured out some biblical truths and then have applied it in a way that makes the most sense, condensed in a way for people to really live their best lives. And if I'm wrong on that, I'm wrong on that. I just, from everything I've seen and everything I've understood, that's what I'm definitely seeing. And there's still a lot to learn. Like I said, there are people who are much further ahead of me that, understand these things at a deeper level. And, if I'm proven to be wrong in 10, 5, 15 years from now, or, even sooner, then, I embrace that. Like I said, I'm willing to be vulnerable with you guys, because that's the only way that I'm going to be able to improve and be honest with you guys. Because if I don't, then I could put up a facade of, who you guys, who I think that you guys want me to be, or, whatever the case may be. And it's like, the old me has lived a life like that. Before I was a man of faith, a man of Christ, that, I was figuring out, what is it that people want me to be? Who is it that, I need to be for people? And it's like, you know, at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable or happy with the person that you are, behind closed doors, or the person who, because you're only going to be like, at the end of the day, it's like whether you've got a partner or not, like when you close your eyes, it's just you and your dreams. If you dream, like I don't know. But for me, it's like, it's me and my thoughts, me and my dreams. And so, am I comfortable with that, or am I uncomfortable with that because my conscience is speaking to me in a way that, I don't like? And for me, it's more of like, how do I help people more? How do I do more? How do I, work more? How do I get comfortable not working as much? And it's a different way of thinking of it, where it's like, how do I, you know, bring out the best in people, make more money, do all these things that really, move the needle forward. And I realize that it's not all about the money. If your main focus is to, just do it for the money, I've made six figures in my life, and I lost it all because I was solely focused on the money. And it got to a point where when I made six figures, I was like, why am I doing this? And again, that's biblical teachings where, it got to a point where I was like, okay, now I want a wife, I want kids, I want, something more than just money. And so, I realize we all need money to make a living. And when you can remove the money aspect of it and think, how do I make money to give back to people more? It's such a different way of thinking of it, where it's like, what would I do with $1 million? Would I just spend it all for myself, or would I use it to build hospitals, churches, libraries, provide food and housing for the homeless? Would I like, there's so many different things that you can do with money that will ultimately be good, like that would serve the world in a better way, that now you don't have to have a bad relationship with money because you think about all these different ways. One second. Because you think about all these different ways of building people up and providing resources for them. And, you know, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, whether you guys like them or not, they've definitely helped a lot of people. And it's interesting where it's like, there's some books that I've read where it's like, whether you have resources or not, money, houses, cars, whatever the case may be, it's like, those might help you a little bit, but really what it is how do you become resourceful? Like, and I think that's where, for a lot of people, you know, I'd encourage you to read How to Win Friends and Influence People, because, when you see the best version of other people, a lot of times, like, you can start to see the best versions of yourself, and then they also will do it for you as well. So, my friend who's just a complete beast in the gym, like, that guy can, I mean, he could probably lift a semi truck. Uh, I don't know if that's actually the case, but he can lift a lot. And it's it it gives me an idea as to, what's possible. And if you're the type of person who, doesn't feel it right now, where it's like, why should I be rooting for other people when I'm not there yet? It's like, the reason for that is because they're showing you what's possible. And so instead of hating on them for living their best lives or making a ton of money or being stronger than you. It's like root for them, like be proud for them, be happy for them, because the more you do that, more likely it is that you're going to attract people like that. They're also going to give you advice or share their opinions with you on how they think or what helped them to get to that stage or whatever the case may be. And so that's where I definitely have the mindset of no excuses, everything's my fault, I take responsibility for what happens. And when you do that, you are going to get, and I could be wrong on this, you are going to get people who take advantage of you on that. And so then you get very good at learning, are these people that I want to avoid, or are these people that I want to spend time with? And it's, and that might sound callous or mean or whatever the case may be. And it's like we all have a finite amount of time here on this earth. And so do I want to be spending time with someone who sees the worst in people, or do I want to be spending time with people who are doing everything they can to live their best lives, to help people and connect with people? And again, I don't have all the answers. There are much smarter and more intelligent people than I am who are much capable in a lot of different areas. And I'm just giving you guys an idea as to how my mind thinks and, again, finding ways to build strong relationships with people who want to make a change in the world. So hopefully that helps. And if you guys have any questions, you know where to reach me. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. You can reach me. You can also text me, call me at 541-515-9149. Love to help you in any way that I can. I'll talk to you soon.